Hello everyone, good morning. Thank you for joining today's session on free OpManager training series. Before we start, I would like to get a quick confirmation from you all. If you can hear me well and see the presentation slides, please use the webinar chat panel and type yes. Let's wait for a couple of confirmation and then we can get started. All right. As many of you have confirmed, let's get started. Let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Suresh Bhagavati, Evangelist for Manage Engine IT Operations Suite, and I'm with Manage Engine for the past 10 years. Before I ended up in this role, I was working as a support engineer with OpManager technical team and helped customers and prospects around the globe to make best use of OpManager in the organization. Well, that is about me. And so this is our training schedule. So it's a 5-part series. As you know, we have already covered the first part, discovery and classification, where we discussed about the initial settings required for OpManager, the ports and protocols required by OpManager, and the different ways of adding your inventories inside OpManager tool. Also, we discussed about how to filter and add only the devices that you wish to add an OpManager, and to schedule the discovery so that the devices that add on your network on a later date will be added to OpManager automatically. And in today's session, we will discuss about the server performance monitoring, the key performance metrics required to monitor on the server, and how to configure the thresholds. And we'll discuss about the virtual servers as well, and how to add a custom WMI monitor if the default WMI monitors are not available. And I'll also give you tips on some of the troubleshooting tips on how to address the problems when you lack communication with WMI to monitor a specific metric. And the next topic is about network performance monitoring, which happens next Wednesday on same time, and followed by effective fault management and IT automation on October 17. And our final topic would be with network maps, reports, best practices, which will happen on October 24th, same time. And most importantly, the recorded version of this webinar will be emailed to you within 1 working day time. And also it will be posted, it will be uploaded in our website opmanager.com/training.html. In case if any of your colleague or friends who missed to join today's session, you can share the link with them so that they can use this to know what happened with server monitoring session. And also you can use this for later reference. All right, so let's get started with our week 2 topic, monitoring server performance. Let me quickly discuss about the agenda for today's session. First, we'll be discussing about the device availability. As you know, we have already seen how to add the devices into the monitoring tool. Now, let's discuss about how to monitor the availability of the devices, and then monitoring the key performance metrics on the servers, and the key performance metrics on virtual servers. And we'll discuss about how to create a custom WMI monitor. And you can also monitor a specific metric for which you do not find default performance metrics in OpManager. So you can write your own script and upload that in OpManager, associate that to the devices to monitor the specific parameter that you want to monitor for the specific devices. And troubleshooting tips on how to solve the problems when you lose communication with the devices or when the data collection stops for specific servers. And more importantly, we have a panelist team available. So during the course of training, you have any questions, so feel free to post it using the webinar chat panel, and our panelist team can answer your questions then and there, as well as we will validate the top questions, the interesting questions discussed in today's session, and we'll do a separate talk for the last 10 minutes that will be handled by one of our experienced support member, and we will discuss all those questions for the benefit of larger audience. All right, so first I would like to talk about the ports and protocols required by OpManager to monitor the availability of the devices, to monitor the performance metrics, and also the interface metrics as well. To talk about the availability of the devices, so we use ICMP and TCP port check to monitor the availability of the devices. And when you add a device, we will monitor the availability, response time, and packet loss. And by default, we monitor this through ICMP. And as you see, the attention alarm will occur when a device misses one port, and trouble alarm will be raised for the devices that misses 3 ports, and a critical alarm will be triggered when the device misses 5 ports. So it can also monitor the devices through TCP port check. So if you have any critical devices that you need to monitor that through a TCP port check, you have an option to configure that. I'll show you in the product in a while. And all interfaces, we monitor that through SNMP protocol. So you have to make sure that when just give me a moment, I have some trouble here. All right, I think it's fine now. So let's go on. So, and also on the devices, we monitor the services through TCP or WMI, and processes through WMI, SNMP, SSH or Telnet. And for file and folder monitoring, we support only for the Windows devices through WMI protocol. And also you can monitor the URLs, the websites availability and response time. All right, so the first thing about monitoring the availability. As I said, when a device is added in your OpManager tool, it starts monitoring the availability of the devices, the packet loss, and response time. So by default, it uses ICMP. So where do you require the TCP? In certain scenarios where your critical servers are in the demilitary zone and where the ICMP is restricted. So in that case, you can always have OpManager to configure to monitor the availability of the devices through TCP port check. Let me quickly show you from the product. So let me pick this device for example. You go to, just a moment. All right, so if you select this list icon and edit device details, at the bottom you will see monitored via ICMP. So if you feel that this device is in the demilitary zone and you wanted to monitor the availability of the devices through TCP, you just change the protocol to TCP and provide the required port number and just save it, so that from now on the device will be monitored through the TCP protocol. All right, let's see what we have next. Configuring threshold for packet loss and response time. So if you are monitoring the devices within the LAN, I would say this is not required. So because you will receive the response time for the devices in milliseconds, where you do not need to monitor the devices for the packet loss or response time, where it will always be 100% and the packet loss will be 0%. So in which cases the thresholds configured for devices are required to monitor the device availability. Say you wanted to monitor your firewall across a WAN link. So in that case, you need to monitor the response time. If it is going to take, the response time is higher, then it's going to be a trouble. And if there is a packet loss, then there is going to be a trouble. So you have to make sure that the response time and packet loss thresholds are configured. And you can configure this through the settings that are available here. You see the edit icon here, available for packet loss and response time. So it can be, the thresholds can be triggered in multiple levels. So for attention level 1, and for trouble level 3, and level 5, a critical alarm. So you can configure the threshold value accordingly so that you are notified about the problem at various levels. Similarly, you can do this for response time as well. All right. And next, configuring uplink dependency. Say you have a core switch on which 50 devices, 50 servers are connected to that switch. And at one point of time, the code switch goes down, and in OpManager, if you haven't configured the uplink dependency, you're going to see 51 alarms. So including the 50 servers and including the core switch, you will see 51 alarms when the core switch goes down. So to avoid that, we recommend you to configure the uplink dependency, so that when an uplink dependency is configured, and whenever the device goes down, and you will see only one alarm saying that the core switch is down. So if you go to the device snapshot page and edit the device details, and you have an option to configure the uplink dependency. So you can just select the map the parent device to this particular server, so that when the parent device goes down, it is going to trigger an alarm only for the parent device. So you can also do this in a bulk under the quick configuration wizard. You go to settings, configuration, and quick configuration wizard, and device dependencies. Here is where you will select. So if you have a core switch, select that, and here you have an option to assign this as a parent device to category wise. You want to associate this to all servers, you can do it. Or you wanted to associate this to a specific business view group, you can do this. Or you want to manually group the devices, you can simply select the devices, move it to the right side box and click associate. So now this device, the HP switch, will be associated as the parent device to these three devices when you click on the associate button. Alright, and configuring monitoring interval for the devices. See, by default, the devices will have the monitoring interval configured. So this device, the polling interval is 5 minutes, and it depends upon the criticality of the severity of the servers. The monitoring interval, the polling interval, will be updated. So for routers it is 5 minutes, maybe for servers it is 10 minutes, or for desktops it is 30 minutes. And you can always go and update the monitoring interval for the critical devices. Say the minimum would be 1 minute, and you wanted to configure this, just edit the device details and configure the monitoring interval to your requirement. The minimum would be 1 minute. And you wanted to do this in a bulk, you go to settings and configuration, monitoring intervals. And here, based on the category, for servers you wanted to see only 5 minutes, set the polling interval as 5 minutes, you can set this according to your requirement. Alright, so we'll move on to the next. And so now we know how to monitor the availability of the devices. And when you get into the availability statistics chart, you're wondering why it shows various colors, and here it is. So as you know, for clear it is up, for down it is red, and for on maintenance, if you're wondering what is on maintenance, if you put the devices on a schedule, on a downtime schedule, say in between on a maintenance period, the devices should not be monitored, you can put this on a schedule. So those devices will be at those period, the graph will be shown as gray, and some point of time you will put the devices on hold. Say you wanted to change the hardware, which will take 20 or 30 minutes of time, and you wanted to put the devices on hold for a while, and those status will be shown as the pink color. And the dependent unavailable, as I showed you, the parent device goes down, and then the availability chart will be marked as dependent unavailable. And whenever the OpManager server itself is down for a while, and those time the devices will be marked as not monitored. And on the right hand side, you see the outage history. So whenever the device goes down, it's going to mark when the devices are going down from and to, and in between you're doing some maintenance task, you're changing some hardware, you wanted to mark the reason, so you can edit and change the reason for the respective downtime period, so that the other administrators, whenever they log in and see the devices are down, they might know the reason, saying for this purpose, for which purpose the devices were down for the so and so period. All right. So next, monitoring services. So when you go to when you add any service, any servers, you can monitor the services on the devices. So you can monitor the TCP service. Say you wanted to monitor any particular service, you just give a name for the service and add the port number, and then you can monitor the services. So it monitors the TCP port check, and also it does monitor the Windows services. Let me quickly show you from the product. So go to inventory. Let me drill this down to a Windows server, and on the device snapshot page you go to monitors, and you see service monitors. So this is where the TCP service can be monitored. You just need to provide a name and the port number, and from then it will do a TCP port check and monitor the services through TCP port. Similarly for Windows services, so it can monitor all the Windows services through the WMI script. So all you need to do is simply add the monitors. So it is going to list all the services, and it's going to say the status of the devices, whether it is started or stopped, and whichever the monitor that you wish to monitor from this particular server. So you wanted to monitor the status of application experience, application host helper, you can select and add it. So from this point of time, the server will be monitored for these services, and for monitoring the services and the devices, whenever it goes down, it is going to trigger an alarm for you. So you don't need to do any configuration. As long as you're monitoring the devices for availability and service availability, whenever it is stopped or whenever it is not available, OpManager is going to trigger an alarm for you. So you go to device and you wanted to see the alarms. So you see all the recent alarms are listed here. And you go to alarms page. It's going to show you the list of alarms that are not available. The services or any kind of alarms will be available in this page. And next, let's talk about the processes. So you can also monitor the processes up down status for that is running on the devices. So let me quickly show you that from the product as well. So similarly, on the monitor page, you have process, and you wanted to add a process monitor. It's going to list all the processes. So you wanted to add any one critical processes, you can add and monitor. And once when you associate it, it lets you update the threshold for the specific processes. Say I wanted to configure the threshold for the process that takes the CPU and memory and the instance count. I can update the threshold for it. So whenever it deviates from the configured threshold value, it is going to trigger an alarm for the respective process. And as I said, for similar to the services, whenever the process goes down, it is going to trigger an alarm automatically, and you don't need to define anything for that. The next, process template. So let me show that from the monitoring and processes. So here you can create a template. So you wanted to discover processes from this particular device, select the respective WMI, the CLI or WMI or SNMP credentials, and then just click on next. So this will browse and select the fetch all the processes available in that particular device, and then you can add that as a template. So from here you have an option to associate the respective processes to more devices in one time. Say I wanted to associate this MS SQL process to a group of devices. I can come to process template page and select the devices, move to the right hand side box and click associate. So in just one click, and I'm associating the MS SQL process to a large group of devices. Alright, and if you have any questions, feel free to post it in the webinar chat panel, and we have the panelist team who can answer your questions then and there. Alright, so let's move on to the next section, monitoring server performance. Let's say you get a call one day wherein you were asked to troubleshoot the performance slowness on a critical server. The server is really high resource intensive, so it is very critical to monitor the server performance. And let's see what are all the performance metrics, the key performance metrics that you have to monitor from the devices. So you need to know the disk usage. So you have to monitor the free disk space, used disk space, disk utilization, disk speed per second, and disk queue length. All this will give you in-depth insight on the disk usage. And also you have to monitor the CPU utilization. You need to know what is the CPU utilization when the server is performing good, or what is the CPU utilization when the server is performing bad. And if you see the trend of CPU and memory utilization growing, and then you need to correlate this with the workload activity, so that you can come to a conclusion whether you need to add more hardware according to the workload, and you need to fix that problem accordingly. And also you need to monitor the memory utilization, pages per second for falls, reads and writes, and the top processes by memory usage. Let me quickly jump to the product, show you from the page. See, when the devices are added, it will start monitoring the performance metrics available in the device template. So this particular device is Windows 2012 R2. So let me go to the template and show you how the default templates are associated. So Windows 2012 R2. So this is the template for Windows 2012 R2, and if you see, there are some of the default performance metrics associated to the template. So it is WMI and SNMP performance metrics associated to it. So whenever OpManager identifies a device, a Windows 2012 R2 device, so this is the OID. So using this object ID, OpManager defines whether it is a Windows 2012 R2 device or not, and then it associates the model as Windows 2012 R2, the vendor as Microsoft, and the category as server, and then it adds all the performance metrics that you have that is available in the template. You wanted to add more monitor to it, you can simply click on add monitor, and you can add from the list available here. All right, so let me close this, and let's see, you have the default monitors available here. So these are the monitors that gets associated to the device automatically when the device gets added to the tool. Let me go to the device again, and this is the device snapshot page, and you see the memory, the disk utilization, the partition device details, everything is getting monitored. And you wanted to see the graph view of it. So this is the monitors page that lists everything. And you wanted to see the graph view, you can simply click on the graph view. So it's going to give you the graph view for each and every monitors associated to the device. Next, health report. So the next thing after adding the devices and monitoring the availability and performance metrics, you can see all this as a reports in OpManager. Let me quickly jump to the product and show you. So you go to reports, and then the health and performance report, the server's health report. You see the top devices, the top 10 devices for CPU utilization, memory utilization, packet loss, availability, response time, and disk utilization. And similarly, you can also pull out the report for availability and response. And you wanted to know the disk forecast by usage, you can pull out the report as well. So it is going to give you the stats of the used percentage, and when it will reach 80% or 90%. It will give you the date here. Right now there's no data for that available, there's no growth, so it is showing that as no growth available. and it will give you the forecast saying that at so and so date this will reach 90% or 80% or 100%. So the administrator can plan for the disk upgrade accordingly. Alright, so the next is VMware, and we have the virtualization support for VMware, HyperV, and Zen server monitoring. And all these are monitored through for example, the VMware, it monitors the performance through the native API, and you have various key performance metrics for CPU ready time, wait time, the memory balloon, and so on. And it also monitors the hardware metrics like sensor, power, and temperature, and all this uses the VMware API monitor to VMware API protocol to monitor it. And the supported vendors for the hardware metrics are Dell and HP. And the VMware events, before, let me quickly show you. We go to dashboard, and you have a separate dashboard available for virtualization. So you get to know how many ESX hosts available, how many vCenter available, along with the data. Go to virtualization and pick one device, for example, the vCenter. So if you go to the vCenter snapshot page, it's going to give you the data of the total data centers available in that device, total clusters, total number of hosts, and total number of VMs. And you go to virtual details. And from there, you can actually drill down to the respective host. So let me drill down to this OPM ESX6. So from here, you can know what is the CPU condition of this particular host and so on. And under the virtual details, you get to know how many number of VMs associated to this particular host. And you click on monitors. So that gives you the information about the virtual performance metrics available for this particular host, and whatever the protocol that you see, VI web service, it is the API performance metric, and whichever that you see on SNMP or CLI, that is specific to the servers. So I can also drill down to the VMs from here. So let me drill down to OPM Win7. And under the virtual details, you see the VM performance metrics available. Alright. And we'll talk about the VMware events. So not only OpManager monitors the VMware devices, it also monitors the events available on the virtual environment. So sometimes a vMotion happens, the guest VM will move from one host to another, or there is a disconnection in the host, or the VM's connection, or the powered on, powered off status. You can also get notified about the VMs that are orphaned when a schedule is removed from the respective guest VMs. So let me quickly show you the VMware events available. So these are all the default VMware events available in OpManager, and you wanted to add more events, you can just simply click on add and select the respective host and just click on. So now, just a moment, you see there are total of 421 events available. So from here you can just drill down to show. I'm just listing 100 pages, so the ones that are already listed are selected here. You wanted to add more, just select the respective event for which you wanted to see that as an alarm in OpManager whenever the event occurs, and simply add it. So this gets added to the list, and you want to associate that to the respective devices. just select the respective thing and get that associated to the available devices. Let's say I want to associate the newly added device to OPM K12. Just click on associate and this gets added to the respective events. And next, all these are captured as reports as well, and you can identify the reports based on the underutilized or proficient resources. Let me quickly show you that from the report. Go to reports. This is a separate report available for virtual server reports. You wanted to know the data store versus VMware mapping. Pull out the report for that. Or you wanted to know the host versus disk mapping. You can pull out the report based on that, so you can understand the capacity and the free space. Or you wanted to create a new virtual report, just provide a name. Click on next, select the respective vendor and host, whether it is a host or virtual machine, and you wanted to select this for memory and all the devices, and you can define whether you want to pull out this report for this week or last week. Just create it, and it is that simple to create your own report for the virtual devices. And also, when a vCenter device is added or a host is added, you will see the map available for the respective devices. Let me show a map for the VMware. So you know how the devices are interconnected with each other in the virtual environment. And you have an option to select whether you want to see the host to VM mapping or host to network or host to data store or VM to data store. So right now the host to data store and VM to data store were unselected. So I want to see that data as well. I'm just selecting and apply to it. I can also resize this so that I can see this, a clear view of how my virtual devices are connected with each other. Alright, so that is about virtual servers, and you can also monitor the applications. For example, the MS SQL application, the MS Exchange application, and Active Directory applications. So there are specific key performance metrics available for the application related to SQL or Exchange or Active Directory, and you can actually monitor that in OpManager. Whenever a SQL or Exchange or Active Directory devices are added, it will automatically identify that device and starts monitoring the application performance metrics that is available that you see on this list. And you have this for SQL and Exchange related to the version. And all the thresholds, all the threshold value that you see here configured are based on the Microsoft best practices, and this may not be applicable to all the environment. And if your environment is too heavy or according to your environment, you have an option to change the monitoring interval to specific metrics. So you wanted to change this for Exchange 2010, you can change this from the application template available here. And you're wondering what is apply configuration, save configuration. So whatever the changes that you do, you can apply that, select and apply that change. Okay, I don't have. You can apply that to the available devices and save it, so that already discovered devices, whatever the changes that you have done will be applied to the already discovered devices. And you wanted to change all the configurations here, all the thresholds that you have added here. You want to modify the thresholds for the respective metrics and save the configuration. So this will only update the templates changes. It will not apply to the changes to the already discovered devices. But when you add a new Active Directory server, and whatever the changes that you have made will be applied to the newly added servers. And for the already added servers, you need to modify and make sure that it is applied. You click on Apply Configuration Change and select the respective devices. Next, WMI custom WMI monitors. Say from the template I had shown you before that when we pick the Windows 2012 R2 for example again. As I said, you have the default templates available here, and so apart from that, you can also add the monitors that are available in the list. And let's say you have you do not find the respective monitors for which you wanted to add a monitor from the available list, and you always have an option to add a custom WMI monitor as well. Just select the respective device, set the monitoring interval, click next. So now this will fetch all the WMI classes available from this particular device. So once it fetches the WMI classes, it's going to list that in the drop down available here. Say I wanted to add some of the monitors related to net security, then I just select that, and it is going to list all the performance counters related to security. And I wanted to add the link time checks, I can add it. I can select that, and from the right side box it is going to list all the instances related to the security, and I can add that and click save, so that the newly discovered monitor, the performance metric for the link time checks will be added to the monitor. So that is how you add a custom WMI monitor. And the one more point about adding a custom template is, let's say you have added a custom WMI monitor. Let's say I've added a system uptime right now, and I wanted this information to be displayed on the device snapshot page. I simply select show dial from the template and save it, so that when I go to the respective device, it will display the information for system uptime on the dials. Say previously we did not see this information for this device. I wanted to see this on the device snapshot page. I can control this from the device template. And script monitoring, as I said before, for any performance metrics for which you cannot find the WMI classes, or you cannot find default performance metric through SNMP or WMI, you can write your own script, and any script language that runs on a shell or prompt is supported, and you can write a VB script or PowerShell script or Perl script, shell script or Python script, and get that added to the product and get it associated to the respective devices. And you have all the scripts that's shared by our customers posted in our community page, and you can access this link to download one. And you wanted to use one available from our website, you can try to use that as well. It's going to be a simple download, and it's an XML file, and you can import it in the product. Let me show you how you can do that. Go to settings and monitoring. This is where you have script templates, and you wanted to add your own template. Just hit on add by the name, description, and you just copy and paste the script body here and set the thresholds and save it. And finally, once the script is ready, just associate that script to the devices that you wish. So for example, I wanted to associate the cache memory script to this particular device. Just simply associate it, and then when I go to the device snapshot page, I will see that this particular script is associated to the device. And I wanted to execute this, I can simply so this is the export. So I wanted to export a template and upload this on a different site, I can do that. Or I wanted to import one, so this is how the format will be available if you're downloading it from our website, for which the users have already tried certain things. For example, we have templates available for monitoring a certificate expiry, the SSL certificate expiry, and if you're downloading that, it will be in XML format. You just click on import and browse and select that respective file, so that goes into the product, and all that you need to do is simply associate that with the respective devices. And then you can also monitor the URL availability for both intranet and internet web applications. You can configure the threshold for URL response time so that when the response time deviates from the configured threshold value, you'll be alerted. You can also configure a match content so that when somebody tries to hack the website, they'll try to log in and change the content. When you see that the respective content is not getting matched, and you can understand that there's something wrong with the website. I'll quickly show you from the product. We go to URLs, and this is where you will add a new URL to monitor from the respective devices. Just provide the URL name, the URL address, the monitoring interval, and you wanted to check for specific match content. You can provide that. For example, if I'm trying to add monitor the manageengine.com website, I'm looking for manage engine text, and I can select whether it is going to use the form method or whether it's going to use the form method as post or get, and the cookies whether it is accepting all or rejecting all. And if it requires any authorization, I can provide the authorization as well. And I can also associate a notification profile so that whenever this particular URL goes down, I will see that as a notification in my email box as well. Configuring proxy details for URLs behind proxy. Say some of your URLs are configured proxy and you wanted to monitor the availability of those URLs, then you have to make sure that you configure the proxy server settings, basic settings, and proxy server settings. Here is where you will have to enable the proxy and provide the proxy server details along with the credentials. And if you wanted to exclude the proxy for certain devices like localhost, or for certain devices which is not using a proxy, you can just add the IP address of or the device name with a comma separated value here. All right, and also as I said, for Windows devices, using OpManager, you can monitor the file and folders as well. So you can monitor the availability of the files and folders. You can configure thresholds for the folder size and get notified whenever the size is exceeded, and configure the filters based on file extensions. Monitor only the required files, and configure the thresholds for file size, file age, and count, and so that you're notified whenever somebody tries to modify the file or remove the folder or updating the file content. You're monitoring. You can add templates for files and folders as well. So you can monitor the folder existence, the folder size, and you wanted to be notified whenever the folder size grows beyond so and so byte or so and so GB or MB. You can configure that as well. And when somebody modifies the folder you want to get notified, you can also select the notification accordingly. Similarly, you can monitor this for file as well. So you just mention the file path, so you can monitor the file existence, file contents, file size, file age, and file modification as well. And with that, we are coming to the last part of the presentation, and where I'm going to give you some troubleshooting tips. Let's say you're monitoring a server, and when you configure, after you configuring the threshold, and you see an error saying that access is denied. So what do you actually need to do at that time? Or sometimes it says RPC server is unavailable, and what do you need to do at that time? So it's simple. You just need to go to run and check for the WBM test, which is the Windows Management Instrumentation Tester. So you just click on connect, and here you have to mention the server name with a backslash, and provide the same credentials used for in OpManager for this particular device. Let's say so this is a local device, so I can just directly hit on connect, and let's say I wanted to query certain thing. So you have to know the exact WMI class name so that you can look in for that, and it is going to fetch the information related to CPU. And here if I click on show MOF, it is going to bring in all the information related to the Win32 processor. So during this time, if you hit on connect and you see any error, it means that the communication is not happening between the OpManager server and the monitored server. So you have to make sure that the respective credential has the proper access to the device so that you can monitor the respective WMI monitor. So as I said, sometimes the password might be wrong or the credentials are not associated. So you have to make sure that the right credential is associated, and you have to use the same WMI account used in OpManager. And if any WMI ports are blocked by firewall, you have to make sure that it is removed. So this is how you can troubleshoot the WMI monitor that is not collecting data. So with that, I'm coming to the end of this presentation, and you have any questions, feel free to post it. And we have received a lot of questions from other users, and we have validated some of the top questions, and which is going to be presented by one of our technical expert, Sanjeev. So I'm just going to refresh the presentation. It's going to take some while. All right, so we are almost there. So I'm going to transfer this session to Sanjeev, one of the technical expert from OpManager team, to run down the questions validated for today's session.
Oh, hello everybody. This is Sanjeev, product expert and panelist from Manage Engine ITOM. We have got a set of questions that we would like to discuss. So let's just get this one by one. Is there a way to set the device response time threshold globally for all my devices? Yes, we can certainly do that. Let's quickly go and see how do we do that. So when you go to settings, you have configuration, and then you will have an option where you will be going to the quick configuration wizard and then to threshold settings. So settings, configuration, quick configuration wizard, and then you will have this option called as threshold settings. So under that, you will have to click on the availability monitor and then response time, where you'll be able to select the value and then specify what are the parameters that you require, and then click on next. So you will get to see the list of devices which are available, or you can actually sort it by the category based on whether it is a router or a switch or a server. Move it to the right hand side and then save the changes. So this is just a simple way. All you will have to know is just the navigation part. So it is settings once again, and then configuration, and then when you go to quick configuration wizard, you will find the threshold settings again, and then availability monitors, and then where you actually find the response time and packet loss to be applied to the devices or based on category. Let's just get to the next question. How to monitor the paging file memory for a server apart from the default memory utilization? Yes, we certainly have an option, and that this is where the custom WMO monitors or the monitors which are actually inbuilt by default comes into the picture. So let's just take a look at any one of the servers that we have here. Once when you go to the specific server, all you'll have to take care of that is that the WMI credentials are getting passed. And then when you go to the monitors option, where you actually find the normal list of the monitors that are available here, at the top right you will have WMI monitor, and then you will get to see the list of WMI classes that are already available. I'm sure it's going to take a while to actually display because of the length of the classes that are available. Now all you'll have to do is just do a quick search here using the option called as the paging file, and then you will have the respective values and its instances for which you will have to monitor and get that added. So once when you click on add, you will be able to find that these specific paging file size memory would be added to the appropriate devices, and it would start collecting the data after some time. So this is all about how do we actually add the paging file memory to the servers apart from the default memory utilization that we bring into the picture. Do we have an option to see the list of devices that has been added as a part of the discovery or the ones that has been deleted later? So let's just see where do we have that option. Once when you go to settings and then discovery, you will actually find that right below it as an option called as discovery reports. Now under that you will also find on a list where it will give you the last run which would actually represent on how many schedules that the discovery process has been initiated, and will give you the source and then the admin which user has actually tried to add those devices, and then the column which will actually give you a rough estimate on what is actually being added, deleted, unmanaged or pending devices. And this will be your added devices which would contain all of the type as well as the category vendor for your reference purpose. So this is how you will be able to do it. And far apart from it, we are also trying to provide an option in the future where you will be able to export this as a PDF or an XLS or a CSV file format based on the recommendation of the users. Next question is there a way to assign monitoring interval to all servers on a global mode? So let's just say if you wanted to change the default monitoring interval of all of your Windows server at a time, then we do have an option where you will be able to configure that. So just go to settings and then configuration, and then you have something called as a monitoring interval. So here you will have the default set of intervals that is already impinged to these servers based on their type. All you will have to do is just select the appropriate timing interval and then click on enable and then save those changes in order to take effect. The next question is, will I be able to monitor my cloud IaaS based URLs? Yes, pretty much, more like it. So it is purely based on whether the URL is going to be up or down from the OpManager server. So as long as the URL is able to get a HTTP GET response, or when you say in terms of developing terminologies, it will be the response code 200, which will help you to set that the URL is able to communicate and be reachable from the OpManager server. So yes, according to the question that was proposed, yes, we do have an option. However, the URL should be reachable from the OpManager server, and that could be the only criteria. Is there a PowerShell script readily available to monitor my expired certificates? Yes, there are few scenarios where you will find that an expiry option would be provided to whatever server certificates that you actually receive it from the vendor. So it will have all the columns of algorithms as well as the key bit encryption and then the expiry date. Now there are few scenarios where you will not be in a position to identify on when that SSL is going to expire, which means that you will have to prioritize and then set a date to get a new server certificate imported to your servers. So in that specific case, you will actually have a script that will readily tell you once when the certificates are going to expire. So yes, we do have an option, and in fact I'm glad to actually tell you that we have a resource of Manage Engine community which will help us to share ideas on whatever scripts that the end users have worked out for. This is actually worked out for the larger audience as well as us, just in case even if we try searching any of the forums or any of the blogs that we come across. So this will be probably one of the most useful link to go with, where a lot of users have actually shared their custom scripts and then went on with their ideas to help a larger audience as well as for the benefit of the ITOM community. What is the difference between on maintenance and on hold state? Yes, a very good question. So on maintenance state is when you actually know that the device is being scheduled for the downtime maintenance, and on hold is specifically when the administrator or any operator user who has equivalent privileges would have, scheduled a manual update to say that it has to be in the maintenance state. What are the different options to get the alerts notified through the SMS? So yes, we do have quite a larger channel, but with the hardware modems that were supported earlier, we had few indiscrepancies. So going forward, the way which a larger audience wanted, we have used the SMS gateway now, and then we are also with the SMPPs. So each vendor which you actually have will have their own API documentation, and it will also be helpful once when you actually start working out with their inputs and then get whatever alerts that you wish to notify through your SMS gateway option. So these are the possible options that we have devised in the later releases to go. And right now we have almost all the support for the existing SMS modem configuration that we normally do in the earlier builds. Do we have an option to automatically restart a Windows service once when it is down? Yes, we do have an option. Let's check it out where it is. So let's say, for example, if I go to the server here, you have an option called as monitors, and then when you go to Windows Service Monitors, you will have an option to add this monitor under Windows Monitor. So you can actually add the list of services that are already available here and just click on add. So once if this is being added, you will go to edit, and then you will have an option already with you which can actually help you to say, do the following option if the service is unavailable, restart the service or restart the server itself, or do not do any action. So this probably can help you out. As well as on the global mode, you also have an option where you will be able to do it for multiple devices at a stretch using the add or associate option that is specified as a template below. And my next question is, can I use SNMP and WMI for my server monitoring? Which one is the most preferred? Well, it's probably left up to the choice of the administrator. SNMP, as you might know, is agent based, and it's more dependent on the value of the output that the agent is going to take. And a WMI would be with your administrative credentials that you provide for monitoring your servers. So it's probably left up to their choice. They can use either SNMP or WMI, and we can go ahead and monitor these two parameters that would enhance a lot of value to your infrastructure. So with that, we have almost come to the end of the session today, and if you probably need more help on this, we are always there, and these are the channel mediums which can actually help us to come closer. So one is with the YouTube, where our panel experts as well as so many other members have contributed a lot of technical videos. You can also go through our help documentation where you will have the complete insights of how the product drives. And yes, we have a lot of active forum community users who use OpManager for quite a while. And if you wish to reach us through any of these channels, where you can ring us at sales@manageengine.com, eval-itom, as well as the support, where you can also ring in with these numbers so listed below. And our next training schedule would be on October 10th. That's for the server performance monitoring. And these are the time zones that has actually been mentioned below. And with that, we have actually come to the end of the session. So we thank you so much for having spent your time with us today. And we do expect you to be in the next upcoming seminars as well. Thanks once again. Have a great day.